Greg, I understand it's business. Monkey business.
You're probably
Did you
the
get
best
a
non-council person for
reply
that
then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't send it to anybody yet, but I will. Hi, everybody, welcome to the public consultation period on the 2014 budget. I'm gonna, please have a seat, turn it over to staff, and staff has a PowerPoint presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we'll get into questions and answers, but I think we have to get through I know that we have to get through the PowerPoint before we get to the questions. So, saying that, I'll turn it over to
I do.
our team.
Do I just turn that all off?
Yep.
The one there. Is everybody okay? Can you see that okay?
Is it still too bright? We can turn off the other one. Is that better?
No, that's all right.
That's good?
Okay,
Okay.
Okay?
We can unscrew the light bulb.
Okay, so tonight we're presenting the 5-year financial plan. This presentation is not going to be a line by line of the budget. It's basically picking out the main points of the actual budget. So the items that we're going to cover tonight are going to be property tax, the Columbia Washington loan, operations and maintenance, just a little note on the water rates and the sewer rates, community support, special projects and capital projects. So those are the areas that we're going to cover tonight. Okay? So the area probably closest to everybody's heart is in terms of how much the property taxes are going to increase this year. So this year, property taxes are going to increase by 7%. This will generate $252,000 additional revenue. This $252,000 is mainly going to cover the $4 million debt repayment. The annual debt repayment, principal and interest, is $241,000. So putting this in, how it relates to the average person. The average house was valued at $255,000 in 2013. This is going to be an increase of $114 from 2013 property taxes. Okay. So just to highlight in terms of how the debts for the Columbia Washington repayments are going to be, they're in semi-annual payments. The interest is going to be made over those 2 payments, but the principal will only be made once a year. So that is the $241,000. The $241,000 is going to be paid for 30 years. So that is every single year. Okay, moving on. So operations and maintenance. So bearing in mind that we're only going to have 11,000 increase in revenue, we're not actually going to change our service level, with the only exception of the garbage rate. So the only change in service level is that the garbage rate is going to go down slightly, which you'll see in utility bills, and that is because we're not going to have a full cleanup session. Okay? So that is a direct reflection in utility bills in terms of how much it costs us is how much we charge the customers. So there's no additional revenue or loss of revenue on that. Okay? Just moving on to the water meters. So just to give you an update before we actually move on to the water rates in terms of where we are actually up to with the water meters. So currently we have 1,725 utility accounts. Only 4 of those accounts we're still waiting for the water meter to be picked up, and out of that 17,225, 46 meters have been picked up. We're just waiting for them to be installed and inspected, and I know 2 out of those 46 have actually been installed. We're just waiting on inspection. So the water and sewer rates, as they stand in the moment in the budget, there is not going to be any revision on those whatsoever. That is because we're going to work with a consultant in this financial year to do a full review of our sewer and water rates. So the cost of that consultant is going to be 2/3 funded by CBT, and out of that, working with the consultant, we're looking to review the rates, the future revenue requirements, the cost of service, our customer classes, and our rate design. So that is something that's something we're going to be working on in this financial year, and hence there is no reflection in the budget at this stage for it.
Okay, the next subject we have community support. Sorry, my back is turned to you. The notable reductions this year were in the Chamber of Commerce, which you see is a 17% decrease, and Tourism Rosslyn was a 12% decrease. The 18% decrease in the financial assistance to, that's our policy to enable groups of seniors, children, or special needs people to be able to access trails, recreation facilities. That budget was lowered simply because it wasn't subscribed to the 8,500 the year before, so we had a lot of money just sitting in there. So that's why it received a reduction this year. And of course, neighborhoods of learning, because since the K-12 situation has now come to a conclusion, we are no longer funding the neighborhoods of learning. So all in all, there was an 8% reduction in community support operating grants. So these are the grants where we are directly giving those community groups funding. Also, along with community groups operating grants, we have operational support. Operational support is the support of mostly our public works crew, looking after properties, maintaining yards such as the museum, looking after the curling rink for the curling club, and the Lions campground. So we have a small deduction there, and that, as you can see, is we have the tennis club, which we've reduced from $1,800 to $1,000, and small reduction in the museum operating support. And then the other we have is reserves. So we also have community support where we put money in reserves for future projects. This year, we are taking away the tennis club reserve of $5,000. So community support was reduced by $31.6 thousand from the 2013 financial plan. Operating grants 25, support 1.5, and allocation to reserves 5K, and that's what totals up our 31.6. Special projects. Star Gulch Ophir feasibility study. That is the study to see if either one of those reservoirs could be switched to a public swimming area. We are going out for grant funding on that right now to see if we can get some help to offset that $8,000. Our indicators project is our Sustainability Commission indicators project, which we, I think it's every 4 years we do. Is it 4 or 3? Is it 4? Yeah, and we're updating it again this year. We just received today the news from Columbia Basin Trust that will be 85% funded by a CBT. We have with our broadband project, we have a grant from CIDIT of $50,000, and that will be offsetting the 204. RMI, their Resort Municipality Initiative, that is a 100% funded program. We will be getting more money there because we have now been accepted as a 2% RMI community versus a 1%. So we're going to see an increase in funding in the Resort Municipality Initiative. We have a grant to do a bike trail again in our urban system, and that is a bike trail coming up from Pinewood to offset where people walk along the highway there to come up to Main Street. So we're going to try to put in a trail in there, take away some of the pressure from kids walking up the highway. What else we got there? Sustainability Commission received a grant of $24,500 from CBT, and that will be to initiate their project. They have a couple of things they're going to be doing this year. Their biggest one is a project around education. What else we got, guys, that looks exciting?
Your
So,
Bantam software upgrade.
Bantam software is our financial software for the city, and we need to do an upgrade with that. That's a new program we put in 2 years ago, and, as with all software programs, they need to be upgraded regularly.
The Water Smart consultant there is the Water Smart consultant that we actually just talked about. I've actually failed to put that. It's actually going to be funded 2/3 from CBT on that grant line under the dam safety audit.
So those are our special projects for this year. Capital projects.
Okay, capital projects, remove the stairs on Kootenai and Leroy, just, we're gonna remove them and replace them with the trails, with a wall, mainly because, people with strollers are forced out on the highway and walk up that part of the highway, and this way here they'll be able to still access up on the Leroy without entering out onto,
So that's at the end of Main Street, behind what was the Alpine Grind, so those stairs below there.
To remedy some of the identified risk areas, as per our safety consultant, there's a lot more than $5,000 to be done, but we're slowly gonna work away at that. Install a snow shed barrier in front of the curling rink stairs. The issue with there is the new roof that was put on the arena slides a lot more than the original steel, and then the before that was a asphalt tar and gravel roof. So we need to put a barrier before those stairs get taken out from the snow sliding. Drainage at the south end of Jubilee Park, it was identified last year that it's in total failure, and the line had collapsed underneath there, so that needs total replacement. Correct evergreen deficiencies, that was a subdivision done in Pinewood. There's that money will be collected back from the property owner. So that's just to finish what deficiencies were outstanding when the developer left. The retaining wall at the United Church on Queen and First, that's been in failure for a number of years. Finally, in hopes that we're going to tackle it this year. Once we get the engineering done, we'll have a lot better understanding of costs and whatnot. Safety netting inside the arena. I'm sure anybody's been in arenas has noticed they've got safety netting up now to protect the spectators. So we're going to do just the one side, as it's the side that's used most frequently. Finish off our wall audit, which we've done everything north of Columbia Avenue.
That's retaining wall.
So that's all. There's over 150 of them, I believe, that are within our jurisdiction. Cook Avenue upgrades, that's Cook Avenue Ballpark. Kootenai Avenue is slowly sloughing into the ballpark there. If anybody's been down there and played there, you've definitely noticed it. So we're going to put a bit of a retaining element from just past center field all the way over to right field to push it back a little more, and then prevent the wall from, or the slope from sloughing into the park. Spokane Street, just over here from where we left off 2 years ago on the Washington Street Columbia Avenue project. It was identified from the camera work that was done that sewer line is pretty well in complete failure. It's collapsed in a couple of spots to the point that we could not even camera it. And the water line is an old steel line, very similar to the one that was replaced on Columbia, so it's definitely well beyond its life expectancy. And then, of course, Evelyn Creek is underneath there, so we need to replace the culvert and from there to Columbia as well. Laptops for council, that's just the laptops that they have here, just upgrading them.
The laptops are over 5 years old now.
Arena building upgrades. Every year we're trying to do some improvements in there. This year it's be all allocated to replacing all of the board, the plastic edging that goes all the way around the boards, as there's some rotting behind there, replacing any of the rot that has been identified. Ross Vegas sidewalk, we're still monitoring that, but when Columbia Avenue project was done, there's some heaving that's happening underneath there, so we're trying to figure out a way of draining the water that's coming from the vacant lot underneath and then causing some heaving. Pool items, the fence just right outside here, outside the pool is rotten in a number of places, broken, and just visually it's pretty ugly, so we're gonna fix that up. And then in the pool itself, we're still running with a chlorine gas system, which the IHA has identified as a huge hazard, having chlorine gas in the middle of town, and it's not very well, it's not very secure over here, so there's huge concerns of vandalism, and also the students that generally are hired over there. We just don't want the liability of any of them being in, near, or around the chlorine gas, so we're gonna change it to a pellet or a liquid form. So just some pictures, that's the Queen Street wall and stairs that go up to the United Church. That's Spokane Street, that's in need of the utilities replacement and surface and subgrade. Cook Avenue Ballpark, where the avenue has been slowly sloughing into the park, and it's got huge drainage issues at the toe of that bank. The boards that I discussed with the arena, with some of the rot that's in behind the plastic sheeting. Okay, capital for water projects. So over the years, we've identified a number of houses that either their lines freeze or out on city property freeze. This year, we've had over 30 frozen water lines, which on a normal year, we have anywhere from 2 to 5. So we've had some that we've never had issues with, and homeowners that have been there, and some of them for over 30, 40 years have never had problems with them as well. So we got to continue on working on that program, because obviously we're going to be responsible to pay per cubic meter to the regional district for our sewer function. So any reduction that we can will decrease our costs over the years with the regional district. A fail-safe pressure reducing station at Redstone. On the pressure reducing station there, the pressures can reach, when that goes into a fail mode, it fails in the open mode, which puts over 300 psi down into lower Redstone, which is going to cause a lot of major issues in the future if that station fails again. So we're looking at putting in a bypass, or like a check valve or something down there to prevent that when it does go into a fail mode. Valve replacement program, that's just replacing the large inline valves that you see at most intersections, because a lot of them are very old, 50, 60 years old, and no longer hold. So when we do have a water break downstream of that, we have a heck of a time trying to shut down some blocks. So we're continuing on with that program. And also we're changing over, mainly at Red Mountain, but in other areas of town, we want all our water meters over to radio read, so we no longer have to. Right now, we're probably 80% radio read, so we're just going to change the remaining part of them.
That enables us to read the meters inside the vehicle via computer instead of going out with a gun and walking around. It's much quicker.
Install a connection for a portable generator at the treatment plant. We discussed with council about installing an actual generator, and with some recommendations from council, they wanted to look at putting in the connections and availability of a portable generator in case of a long-term failure, at the plant for power, so we're gonna have it generator ready, I guess, plug-in ready for there, and the pump house at the top end of town for the Kirkup pump station, which pumps the water up onto, Monte Cristo Mountain. So in a complete, power failure, we, will still be able to supply treated water to all of town, and that's including Red Mountain. Water treatment plant instrumentation upgrades. The plant is starting to show its age, so we just wanna make sure that we're continuing on keeping up with technology and actually. Spokane, the water, that's just the water, portion of the Spokane Street job from Columbia to First. And then in this capital for sewer, we have $50,000 there to, shouldn't really say complete, but, to continue or to start smoke testing and try to reduce our inflow and infiltration of the sewer system. So we've got a lot of, groundwater that gets in the old, especially the tile pipe and the manholes and the manhole lids. So we are going to identify the worst areas in town, and we're actually gonna start working on reducing those areas. And there's a lot of I&I that we have, like other municipalities, not just us. I guess our advantage is we know the areas, so we just need to pinpoint it in those number of blocks, and so we can start to reduce that. And then there's the sewer part for the First to Columbia on Spokane Street project. In our ongoing equipment replacement program, we've got a 2004 John Deere skid steer that we're replacing, trading it in and replacing it. And then 1998 cat loader, same thing with that, trading it in and purchasing a new one.
And that's it?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll open up the floor, raise your hand and ask a question, and away we go. Yeah, go ahead.
Just curious about what the city's plans are with the tennis courts. You reduced the capital replacement. Where are you going with that?
Who's gonna answer this? I think you.
Sure, Sam Ross.
Yeah, I know Sam, yeah, sorry.
Just curious, I mean,
Yeah.
just curious
Yeah.
what the plans are. The city owns the property.
That's right.
Just curious whether you're just gonna let them go now, or are you planning to?
It was a council decision
Yeah.
to reduce the tennis club this year, to take out that money for reserves. I would suggest to you that in the future, probably we'll be looking at maybe some grants to help do that. And we'll be looking at the tennis club to help with that as well, to look at any kind of grants we can get to do that kind of work. Or it'll be future considerations for other councils to start that reserve again.
It just seems that, at this point, tennis is a very cost-effective activity, three-season sport for a place that I'm interested in being a sort of sport-friendly and, training ground for people, very easy and cheap to get involved with. So we're a little at a loss as to why. I mean, we have other big plans for the tennis courts, but that won't involve any money from the city, but the little money that we do get is much appreciated and somewhat needed. And we're just wondering if there's any reconsideration for that.
So I think what we're talking about is the funding to reserves,
Yeah.
right?
That's all I'm really concerned
Yeah,
about.
so
The work, the deduction of $800, we're not really that concerned about, since we have
Right.
ample volunteers, probably.
So we're just talking about, sorry to
No.
interrupt you, go ahead.
Well, that will be a council decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can,
I don't think
have
it's,
two councilors
yeah.
here tonight, listening to the budget has not been adopted yet, so there is still time to change. And this is something that happens every year. Next year, for community, funding, we have the new application form that everybody will need to send in by October 31st. And I would suggest that would be the time to make sure that that application form is fully loaded, so when it comes back to council.
And that would happen October
You
31st?
need to have them in by October 31st.
2014,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Certainly the goal is not to abandon the tennis society, that's not the goal whatsoever.
Okay.
I saw your issue with retaining walls, there's a few walls
Yeah.
on the course.
We're aware.
I'm sure you're.
Laura, go ahead. Unless you guys, Sam, do you have any more?
No,
No?
I think I'm done.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
And I'd just like to say, you know, while we're on community support and filling out the applications due by October 31st, I'm wondering when the applications are filled out for curling rink, Ilo's Play School, the Follies, you know, things that don't land within the budgeting kind of timing. You know, some of these, October 31st, things are already happening. And for me, as a taxpayer, I like to be able to see all the, you know, community support or however you term it, you know. And if it's not community support, maybe there are groups where new revenue can be achieved. Perhaps reviewing the miners' hall overall, you know, we had a task force that went on for a year or whatever. There is a whole report. And the miners' hall is a very busy place. And hopefully in the big picture it's doing well. And we know lots of reserves have gone in. And a lot of cooperation with groups to keep that, you know, happening for hopefully next summer. But I think, I just want all the groups reviewed in one way or another, is all.
I think that's the goal, and I think that's
Okay.
why we have the new template, and I think that's why it's gonna be out early, so that everybody has the same guidelines and opportunities to present to council, and then I think council will make a decision hopefully prior to any groups next financial year, so that they would know if and what funding they would get in the next financial year, you know what I mean? Because financials now for some of those groups are done already now to the 2015?
Yeah.
Next year, right? They already have their
Next-
funding till next
next
budget
year.
cycle, right?
Yep.
So what we want them to be able to do is apply for funding in the next budget cycle in this coming October, so that
Okay.
we all know, you will know, everyone will know what the requests are, and,
Okay, well, as
the
long as
application-
it's accommodated things that, never mind.
just,
You know what I'm saying.
let me let Tracy answer that for a second.
I was gonna say, council has also made it a practice over the last year, not to renew anybody's contract. Most of the contracts have just been extended for a year.
Right.
Just so that we have everybody on the same page and we're looking at everybody sort of anew as we move forward.
Okay, Councilor Moore.
I want to ask Laura a question. I wasn't quite sure what you were saying, like you mentioned the Follies and Ilos, and when you saw the community groups up there, they weren't listed up there, right?
Okay, they're not listed. I'm thinking of those groups as they might produce new revenue for the city.
Okay.
They are community support in a different way.
So are you saying you'd like to see them up there, like you say, let's say Ilos, for instance, and they pay some rent, right? They do pay rent,
Yes.
but then if their rent doesn't cover their share of the building, you want to see Ilos up there with I don't know.
Showing a
you know,
deficit?
Showing, well, not showing a deficit, but showing what the city contributes towards them.
Oh, yeah.
Within is that kind of what you're saying? Because there's some groups, you
Well-
mentioned those two in particular, which don't show up there, and I'm wondering if that's what you were after.
Well, I think partly you could read the Minard Hall Task Force report,
Right.
and it might understand better. I know that you're looking for new revenue
Yeah.
in ways. There is support to some of those groups.
Right. I'm just trying to see where you want to see that,
Mhm.
right? I'd like to see that reflected. And that was bringing forward that
Well,
Miners Hall report was something that was coming back to council for review.
Okay,
with
so
an
they
update.
would fill out the same application, even though they're within a contract, or maybe just contract.
If they have it, yeah, if they have a new contract to renew, they'll have to go through the process, and as Butler said, we've tried to keep it, I don't know if we've missed any groups, but we've tried to make sure any contracts that were renewed will fall
Or
under this
only
new,
1 year.
will fall
Yep,
under this new
you did
program.
very well with that. Okay,
Anyone else?
that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, Lois, this
Mhm.
is a very good report, Darren, whoever all's in on it, and council, thank you for hard to, deal with a year where you need to raise taxes, so, now on the page, they're not numbered, operation and maintenance, talking about the garbage rate.
Mhm.
Now, I thought that we had an increase in the garbage rates retroactive to January that was agreed upon at some time during this year. Did that happen?
Go ahead.
What it was there was an increase to our contractor's contract, right? And in order to compensate for that, we took away the fall cleanup, which in the result of that was to actually lessen. the
So
annual
you had
charge.
already known you were increasing it, but
Already known we were increasing
the contractors.
yes, that
But we
decision was
didn't know
made.
about it till.
That decision was made January of, I believe it was January, may have even been, December of 2012. He had not received an increase on his contract for 5 years.
But you had decided to give him an increase? Like, I didn't hear about it till March, or this is March, no, it isn't, February.
I can find that
something.
resolution for you and let you know when that increase.
Okay, I mean, I just wondered how that reflected
Yeah.
this. And I wasn't aware that the fall cleanup had anything to do with the water and sewer garbage rates.
It has to do with garbage rates. Not the water and
Okay,
sewer, just
so
garbage.
you just adjusted that, because usually there's separate line or something that says spring, fall. Just asking.
I can show you the bylaws that
No, that's fine.
split them out.
I think
Okay.
maybe it's just a little bit more complicated than it should be. We knew that, or we thought that, we made a resolution that the contractor was now, hadn't had a, increase for 5 years, and that's fueled and all, has not had an increase. So how do we keep taxes the same by providing the contractor with some more remuneration without raising taxes? And what we did is by decrease of service, and the service
Oh, I
is-
thought that the city
Right.
itself provided that service. The,
we do.
okay,
do, but
I
under-
didn't think
but under
it had
the-
anything to do with the contractor.
But under the garbage
Garbage rate.
funding for the garbage,
Okay,
right? I don't know,
So
maybe,
you-
I
So
might be
how
wrong.
much you
so that
pay
comes on our utility bill.
on your utility bill, where the
Okay.
garbage line is, that includes spring cleanup, fall
Okay,
cleanup,
so that
and
tax
your
increase
pickup at the curb.
has gone there rather than on the 7%.
Right, so the cost of having your bag picked up
Right.
has gone up, but to compensate for that, we took away the fall.
Right.
So that it's actually come down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, on the back of the Roslyn paper, there's a bunch of ads about the recycling program in British Columbia changing. Does that have any effect on what's going on here?
It may.
It may in the future.
Yeah, Councillor Wallace is our representative to the regional district and sits on all those boards. That, what's it called, the material management?
Multi-material BC.
That is a very contentious issue in British Columbia, and I don't know that it's implemented yet. However, there could be not significant, but there could be cost increases, or there could be cost decreases, but currently the program's a mess.
Right.
And that's the
Well-
provincial government.
And recycling, we should know that recycling is not a municipal service, it's a regional district
Mhm.
service.
Mhm.
So that would happen through our requisition from the regional district, not through the
Okay.
cities.
I got one other question.
Yeah,
So
go
these
ahead.
applications that all these different groups, including us, will have to fulfill, they're due by October 31st. When are they gonna be issued?
I think the
They're on the
timeframe.
website right now.
Yeah, okay, there you
We will send out a letter, probably, I would suggest August, to let people know, to start.
Remind them that.
Yeah, that this is a new,
The deadline's
and,
coming.
start collecting your information.
Okay. Another question, how much money is currently in the swimming pool reserve?
I don't have that information to hand, I would have to look that up.
Okay, well, $5,000 was going in there each year, the same as the tennis courts the last 4. And I just wondered if it got spent, or if it's still there to use.
I think it may still be there, but I really don't wanna say without checking that.
Okay. And just, it seems like quite a bit of money is going into the swimming pool, possibly. And I understand safety and liability and all that, but at the same time, you're putting money into feasibility studies for swimming holes and whatever, and I would just like council and staff to consider the whole picture before getting too carried away one direction or another, which we might want everything, we might want neither. I think it's a pretty big deal.
I think that's a great point, Laura, and I think council's looking very hard at that, and I think our decision with the capital that we're putting into the pool this year is to maintain it as it is, because interior health rules now aren't like they were in the 60s, and the facility itself is aged, so it's going to be a difficult choice for Roslinders if they wish, in the near future, if they wish to maintain that. What we've done for this year is to have a budget and a capital budget that will maintain the facility in the short term. The decision, and when you mentioned looking into swimming holes and things like that, those are other options that and maybe there are other options, I don't know. But we certainly are aware of the problems with the swimming pool, and we're aware that perhaps there are other cheaper options. And the reason that we have the budget that we have is so that we can maintain the pool till we can make further decisions on it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but you could use the reserve
Reserves are certainly always a
If-
consideration, and
if needed this year.
but as Ms. Hunter said, I can't, and we
It may or
can't,
may not be that.
we can't give you the exact number of the reserves, but we are aware
Okay,
of your
I mean-
concerns for sure.
Okay, I just never see them. Okay, and
Well, Laura, I think we can commit to giving you an answer there, right? You can get back.
What the
with
reserves
your
are, yeah.
answer.
sure, that's
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
but I'm not
Yeah,
going
good.
further on
Yeah,
that. if they
okay,
didn't
no,
answer,
just so you know, the question's been heard.
Great, I'm not, I'm curious, this is kinda hard to do all this, because what I've found with city council, this one, some in the past, some not, at different levels, is there's always opportunity for public input, you know, in that first 5 minutes or whatever, you can say whatever, you know, and have some awareness. But there still is no opportunity for public engagement. Where you sit down face to face. I know we are here now, and nobody from council even here, or 4 are missing. So, I just think when you get people that are outside the system and looking in, you have more opportunity for more creative ideas. And thus, there could be cost savings, and I just encourage everybody to embrace all the volunteers that we have working in every area of the whole place. The presentation, that was great, but it might have been good. I guess it's the wrong order to do it, but in my mind, the right order would be to put the presentation out first, then you could read it through, and I could come and say, here's these 5 questions, or whatever, and now I'm going through my notes to get lost what you said, and
Laura, you're welcome to send us questions at any time, and we'll do our best to answer them.
And public input, the public's invited at every meeting, Laura, and I know that,
I
I know that
know.
people, I know that people don't wanna get involved or whatever, but the opportunity is there always. And it becomes a bit of a conundrum. How much do you, put out to the public, please come do this, and how much do people expect, and how much do people cooperate with that? That's the problem, it's the problem everywhere, it's a problem province-wide, countrywide, right? People sometimes don't feel that they should get involved. And I think that councils that we've been on now for, I don't know, every 9 years, I guess, have always had public input periods, we've always asked for that. We've always asked for that. And we rarely get many people that come and present to council. This is a huge budget, and it's not your fault. This is a huge budget, huge increase, and we have 4 people and Mrs. Granstrom, right?
No,
So doesn't it tells you something, right?
well, I think it's the discomfort of not being public engagement. It's hard to explain. I guess a nice sample would be when we were doing the planning for the downtown. And everybody sat in a big square table, people who were interested. There were the consultants, there was staff, and people that just cared. And they were kind of a real big variety of people. And they could actually engage with each other, and out of it, we got rid of the big chimney or whatever. But those kind of things can happen, if somebody goes, oh, really? Are you sure you want that? You know, and in public input, you just come and say, okay, I just wanted to let you know that there was, you know, dog shit on the sidewalk every day or whatever, so fine.
There's also delegations, or there's lots of ways that individuals
Okay,
can contact staff and council.
I'm having trouble
And if you-
finding them.
Well, that's fine, but
That's
if
all
you have a
I'm saying.
recommendation to us, we'd love to hear it. No, seriously, that's why we're here.
I think there is a real distinction between public input, where somebody can come and just have their say, and public engagement. And for example, for this meeting, I went back to see, well, how did we notify the public of this meeting? I think Sarah had mentioned it in the record, in the Telegraph, and there was an email that went out on March 17th. But if you really want to engage the public, you know, it's like you do more than we do, and we're not adept at marketing or communicating our, I don't think we do a very good job of engaging the public. I think Laura makes a really good point there. There's you know, plenty of room for improvement, like we talked about doing committees to get involved in the budget at one point. And I thought, yeah, that would be great, and have some citizens involved in those committees too. That's what gets people engaged. If they just come and they can sit here and ask just a couple of questions and then they're done, and do we make a change to the budget or do we not, who knows? But if they actually had a role to play leading up to it, I think we'd get more people who are interested. Actually, I'm thrilled that we have this many people here tonight, given how little information went out about it.
I go back to when we held the budget consultations in the Uplander, advertised the heck out of it, and rented the hall, did everything, huge presentations, and quite frankly, for the years that we did it, it very much wasn't
That's right.
successful.
But that's still not public engagement. That's
It
doing a
totally was public,
presentation.
it
No,
totally
it's
was
not.
public engagement.
It's really
Anyway,
not.
we're not gonna argue about public
No.
engagement, we're talking about the budget.
Maybe we just have different definitions of what public engagement is.
Perhaps.
Engagement,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
well.
they're two things. This is input, right? When people come and
Input
they
is-
say something. Engagement is when they actually have a role to play
Okay.
in formulating.
Well, we'll talk about the dictionary later.
Mm-hmm. I love the dictionary.
Should use the English one.
Okay. And I have a question about, it sounds like there are more plans for the arena. And I know we've put like a lot of money into it, and hopefully, and I don't know that, whether we have more attendance now because upgrades have happened or not. That's a little bit financial, but I saw in the Capitol you were replacing the rotting boards. Is that something that needs to happen every year?
No.
More and more, like you have 20, 20, 20, 20, 20?
Oh, boy.
I mean,
Yeah,
at this
2020,
point.
2020 wouldn't be enough.
Okay,
to
so there's
maintain that
just
arena.
stuff, the building,
It's
Is-
old, and it's
It's
aging.
required.
And so we've done the roof, we've done the envelope around it.
yeah,
Now we just gotta start dealing with, some of the mechanical, some of the brine lines, the rotten boards, it's
okay,
ongoing.
okay. So
And
there's,
to answer your question, is there more use in the arena? I can answer that with no. It has not brought more use in the arena.
okay, but it's getting to be a safer, more
That's right.
efficient building or whatever it takes. Okay, now. I have questions that I don't know if they can be answered or not. And that would simply be, like, do we still have a CAO? Or do
Yes,
we know?
yes, we still have a CAO.
Okay. Okay. And, okay, so I see in here, like, overtime hours and stuff because of something about the CAO not here or whatever. Who are overtime hours to? It's on page.
I can answer that. I put some overtime hours in for Cynthia, the executive assistant, just in case, because when I was doing the payroll at that time, like the budget payroll at that time, our CAO is currently on sick, so I just put something to make sure we had enough coverage there.
And who are the people that would be getting overtime?
It would be the executive assistant.
The only
Oh,
people
okay.
that get overtime are those people that are QP workers,
Okay,
right?
okay,
Except for Cynthia, she does get overtime, but it's at regular time, if she works over her allotted time. She's an
okay,
exempt employee.
okay, sure, okay. And, now, council, now were we putting in a raise for the future city council? Is that what I'm seeing on page 20?
Council gets a COLA raise every year, cost of living allowance, and that's it. There has.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There has been a request to bring forward a report on council remuneration for council to look at, since Rosslyn apparently is one of the lowest paid councils. in the country.
I just wanna add to that, that COLA clause has been in place, I believe, since before the first time I was on council.
Well, I think the bylaw goes back to 1999.
So it's been there for a long time. And as to the report, I mean, I don't wanna rant on the amount of millions that we take home.
No.
But I think the reason we ask for a report is because, if we compare ourselves to communities of similar size, for example, Grand Forks, I can't speak for council because I don't know the number, but, Mayor Taylor of Grand Forks makes 22,000, Mayor Gramster in Roslyn makes 11.
Well.
No, I'm just telling you, that's
Okay.
why we asked for the report.
Okay, so it's a report.
Mhm.
Hasn't
And-
come forward yet. The report has not come
Okay,
forward yet.
well, I would be interested in, when we get into pay scales for whether it's public works or managers or city council. I think some of it should reflect our actual economic situation. I mean, on the whole of Rockland. I don't mean necessarily within City Hall, whatever. But the economic situation, sometimes some towns are making more, they're thriving towns. I have no idea, Grand Forks might be about like this, I don't know.
Certainly, I have to comment on that, because I don't think anyone is saying that we should do anything with the city's ability to pay, but I think it's very important that especially now that we're getting into elections with 4-year terms, it's very important to understand that this is extremely time-consuming for everybody, and if we want to attract people and please anybody that wants to run, give me a phone call, I'll tell you what I think is involved, but I think it's very important that we look at the remuneration and for what is there and the ability to pay. I think that's, all three of those things are very relevant.
Okay, and the other bit that will be relevant, or is to me, is on this particular city council, I felt there was, in general, and I wouldn't target any certain people, but attendance has been fairly low.
I think we should
for
stick to budget.
whatever reason.
I think we should stick to budget, Mark, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want one comment on the raise. It's not exactly a COLA raise, because COLA raise is a specific percentage tied cost of living that's calculated annually. The raise that's in there is a flat 3%, which is not a cost of living, right? Cost of living's been below 2 for the last whatever.
No, it's not for
So what
council.
No, it isn't.
It's not for council.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, because it's in
It's
the,
Yeah.
cost of living.
oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay, then
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a 3%.
No,
Okay.
she's
CPI.
been getting like 0.29.
Okay,
That's right.
okay. Sorry,
Have
I
you noticed
misspoke.
that 3 cents on your paycheck?
I didn't notice the 3%.
No,
Anyway, Laura, so it's,
Well, no,
stay on
it
point.
used to say CPI or something, an actual.
Based on the consumer price index.
Some
It's in the bylaw.
number. I've never seen 3%, I've seen 2.27 or
Okay.
whatever.
I misspoke, I'm sorry. I saw that 3% too.
There's a first time for everything. Yeah, please jump in, yeah, Laura's reading heavy there.
No problem, that's not being interrupted.
And sorry, can we just get your name for the record, thanks?
Jason Smith.
Yeah, Jason, please.
I was wondering why bylaw enforcement isn't used as more of a revenue tool.
I'll delve in that a little bit. First of all, our bylaw person also has about 3 other jobs in Public Works. So those jobs in Public Works include WCB enforcement. Like Darren can go into this forever, but we only have so much time, right? So we would have to balance the revenue enforcement with what we would take away on the other side, right? So revenue enforcement, bylaw revenue on enforcement is a very difficult thing to do. For example, the age-old parking ticket thing. You know, the honest people pay the tickets, and usually the honest people don't get them, and the dishonest people don't pay them. So what you do is you end up having X amount of tickets that you have to litigate, take to court to get the money for. So we have, you know, one person that's multitasking and doing a great job. And in order to get to that point where we could maybe generate revenue there, we would have to look at the expected revenue as to the expected cost. And right now, with our current staff, we really don't have the capacity to do that. Maybe Darren, I don't know if you wanna speak to that or not, but.
No, I think you touched on it, you know, very well. Is there any thoughts, like, what do you think? Are you thinking parking, are you thinking dogs, or?
Those are probably the top two.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and a lot of people's pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give me a buck, I'll volunteer and run around and.
Yeah.
They do it for free.
Seriously, if I don't have to play hopscotch around food going downtown,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, I tell you what we have done is we've asked our public works guys if they, you know, working downtown, if they see a dog, that's running loose, grab it, you know, if you can, and we'll take it down to the pound. Just, you know, so that we're, you know, they're kind of multitasking down there, just, you know, not having somebody specifically like we used to walk around and try to grab dogs.
Mhm.
So, but I think the mayor hit it exactly. Our bylaw enforcement person, you know, if 5% of her time is spent on bylaw, that's a little max. Yeah.
Councillor Walsh, maybe you want to say something?
Well, I was just wondering, to get back to the idea of whether a bylaw officer can actually generate revenue for the community after you take the expense off. And, I mean, we used to have a full-time bylaw officer, so I was wondering whether
Yeah,
Tracy might want to speak to that, how well it worked out.
When we had Wayne, I
Mhm.
think that's who you're referring to.
Mhm.
Wayne was costing us, I believe, about $45,000 a year, and we were bringing in revenue around, I think it was about $8,000 to $10,000.
Mhm.
So, it's a difficult one because bylaw infractions happen 24/7, and people get used to your bylaw enforcement officer's hours. Even when you change them, they get used to them. And it's kind of like, you know, the speed trap, people phone ahead, you know? But, what we have found that really works well is to do, like a week of intensive ticketing. So we'll have Lee downtown every afternoon for a week and hand out a whole pile of tickets, and the word gets around really fast. That, you know, oh, did you know the ticketing? We did that this winter for a week for handicap spots. We made some money. So, I think we need to
And
do
they're
it pretty
available
quick.
now.
We need to
The
do it
fines
pretty
aren't really that high either. I spoke to you earlier in the week.
Mhm.
But, was it the $50 for handicap parking?
Yeah,
And a $5 ticket for other.
$5 for the 2-hour infraction and no parking zone and.
You know, you go to a larger city, Vancouver, Calgary, or something like that, the handicap parking would be, you know, $250.
Yeah,
Mhm.
235 in Manning Park.
Yeah.
Not that I got
I was
one.
gonna say.
That's rather personal.
My people got one.
But, and the question, you know, bigger centers, granted, no doubt, if you have more resources, you can, you know, give more tickets, but then at the end of the day, do you make money on it? You know, the City of Trail, our good friends at the City of Trail have a full-time bylaw person, and they have parking meters and all of that, and if you figure out the costs to maintain that program and the revenue, it's, sometimes a bit of a wash. You know what I mean? And I understand the frustration with dogs, I understand the frustration with parking. You know, we deal with it daily here at City Hall. And if someone could come up with a solution where it wouldn't be, you know, onerous on anyone but the offenders, I think we'd jump all over it. I know we would jump all over it.
I like the volunteer idea, give them a vest
No,
and
don't
deputize
send
them.
don't send her out.
Yeah, we got some volunteers right there. Great.
Or I've taken to using the deposit envelopes at the credit union to write, "You are in a handicap spot," and we'll stick it on people's windshields after work, Friday at 5 o'clock.
But it's a difficult one, I don't know if we answered your question, yes, but,
No, it doesn't, again, I didn't know the numbers and,
Yeah.
you know, there had to be a reason, I wasn't sure why so little time was spent to it.
right.
we've really gone through the gamut of having, part-time bylaw enforcement officers, so 20 hours a week, to a 40-hour-a-week bylaw enforcement officer, down to, what we have now, which is 5% of one person's job. And,
I just have to,
it's tough.
an anecdotal thing, we also went to, when it comes to dogs, we bought our bylaw person a net gun. So that when he was walking down the street, he'd go boom, and the net would fall over the dogs. I don't know if we lost that thing.
No, it's downstairs. We
Still got it.
Does it work?
Did you use it? Does it
No,
work?
we've never used it.
There's so much liability involved in it, but
Catch a kid.
that's going along back before we made decisions.
That's pretty funny.
But anyway, that was, there's been extraordinary steps taken to control the dog
Maybe we
issue.
should just carry that with her downtown, just the threat of it, right?
Maybe Sarah will put that in her
Walk
her
softly,
notes that
carry the
there's,
big net.
that
She
we're
can walk beside
reinstituting the
Jim
net
with
gun.
his big blower.
For people who don't pay their parking ticket.
For people that don't pay the road. Anyway, sorry, but.
We do have a 3-parking ticket, in our bylaw where if you get 3, we can tow you. And that's effective, towing people.
Okay, so if the city crews or whoever's downtown and they're asked to pick up dogs if they're on the loose, do they also pick up dog shit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I would like to see that extended from city hall to the minor hall. Just, I know it's not a budget thing, but it is.
No.
It is public education.
No, actually, it is a budget thing, because if we're
I know.
it is a budget thing, Laura.
I know.
It is a budget thing, because if you want us to hire people to do that,
Okay.
we're gonna need an increase.
Okay, it'll lead to the next question. I probably missed it in here. I didn't know if there was a budget for student wages this
Mhm.
year. Most
There's
years,
student wages included in the public works,
okay, so how many students for how long?
3 students
For
for
3
3
months.
months.
Okay, and do we get like a wage subsidy some years?
Some years.
Some
years
years
we
you
get,
can-
some we apply for it, some years we get accepted, some years.
What you do? And are these always just in the summer, or could a student be used for dogs after school or on weekends?
Just in the summertime, except for on the skating rink, we hire a student to do skate patrol.
Okay, and that's how it pretty well
Mhm.
needs to be.
Are you asking, could we hire a student in the winter to do dog patrol?
Okay, that's
Is that-
a
is
good
that your
way to
question?
put it. Sure.
The answer is yeah, we could, but, there's a whole bunch of liability issues there too, especially with dog control.
Well, especially with
Okay.
dog control, because those dogs need to be taken down to the SPCA, so you don't have students that have driver's licenses and things like.
Hmm?
There's a lot of other liability there.
Okay, they
And you
can't.
wouldn't wanna
With
see
water
them
and-
interacting with angry dog owners.
Okay, well, I had a dog going in the minor hall, and like one that wouldn't go away. Yeah, I meant to.
But anyway, that's,
Funny, that thing.
the budget thing is we could,
Okay,
but it's not very probable that, or likely that it should be done.
okay, okay. Did, I think on the library, and I didn't get a chance to really look at this. At my last day of work, they held today for the team. Wherever the library was, it looked like there was some kind of real increase. I don't remember.
Number
where it
2
was.
report?
No.
I don't know if it was in facilities
We did the
or
same
in.
last year.
Well, library was the same, I think, it
Yeah.
was the same as last year, it was 126.
You gotta go.
They requested more.
They
but we-
requested more.
but we-
They
But
did
that won't
request.
be in the budget, request won't be in the budget.
Yeah, they requested more, but we gave them the same as last year, which was 126. I think.
I don't know. All righty.
While Laura's looking, does anybody else have any questions?
Yep, please.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. I was holding my tongue on that.
Please. speak.
Go ahead,
Speak up.
you in the corner.
Okay,
That
I
I
have a
know a little.
question.
Yeah.
I heard, and I've had a few people approach me about this. The city gives money to Tourism Rossland. They also get grants to do whatever Tourism Rossland does. And I was told that they had a directors meeting as a pub crawl, and they had drinks and food at the Flying Steam Shovel, at the Rock Cut, at Rafters, and that Tourism Rossland paid for it. And to me, that really burns me, because why are they using taxpayers' money? Now, they might be using grant money, but now we're in the same situation as the PHO in Vancouver, where they use supposedly donation money to go to Europe, right? You can't separate the monies. And to me, that's like saying, hey, we got this money and we really don't need it because we can afford to pay for food and drinks for people. And I'm sorry, that really irritates me. In fact, it really, excuse the expression, pisses me off. And I really don't think you should be giving them the full amount of money that you're giving them. Take $5,000 out and give it to the tennis people, because I'm sure they will use it rather than buy beer and food. There, I said my piece.
And thank you for your input.
And this was my
No,
me.
Yes.
This is
we
me.
understand
We didn't doubt that.
Okay.
Can I say one thing about that?
Oh, sure.
They are a separate society, and so, like any of the groups, when we give them money, we don't really control what they do with it. I would agree that might not have been what one would think is the best use of funds.
Well,
But
not
we
when
don't,
you
we
turn
don't
around
put.
and ask the people to give the miners' hall to them for a non-profit because they can't afford the rent on the miners' hall, but they can afford food and booze
Mhm.
for directors, and from what I understand, it was classified that anybody could come, it was an open meeting,
Mhm.
you know? I'm
Bad
sorry,
optics.
No.
I didn't hear that.
No, it wasn't an open meeting. I sit on the board.
Well,
But I'm
I-
sorry, I just don't think it's right. I mean, especially when the city is tightening its belt, trying to, they give up the fall cleanup so that they can save money enough, and then it's like rubbing it in the faces of everybody else. And there's a lot of old people here who can't afford to pay extra money. And you're giving money to a society that obviously doesn't care. I'm sorry, that really irks me.
I don't know how we can go with that into the budget, but I think we can make note of that, and we will for sure. Your comments are well noted. And, sorry for laughing, and because I think it is an issue, the optics are really ugly. I agree totally that if you're using grant money, even if you're using grant money doesn't come from the sky, it comes from
Public
tax.
funds.
No, it shouldn't.
So, yeah, I mean, I know that we as a staff have actually told a couple of groups, no, you can't even be buying coffee for people, it's not right. So, we got it under advisement.
So at council meetings or committee of the whole, when you guys are working 5 to 7, 7 to 9, whatever, and throughout, and you have pizza or whatever, is that purchased by the city?
Yes, by the city.
But we don't get beer.
So you don't starve.
I mean, I think if you
Okay.
start a meeting at
No,
5 o'clock, you know you're not gonna finish till 11.
No, I'm-
It makes every sense to have someone have
I know.
some food in their stomachs. I think the point was about spending tax money on things that really
No.
Yeah.
aren't appropriate,
It was a question. that's
and I think
all.
I answered it.
Okay, this is one, because I've heard other people talk about this. I'm just curious about the, free bus to Red Mountain and how successful that was, and if you put any money into that.
We put, out of the resort municipality initiative funding that comes to the city put in 14,000, or no?
No, it's more than that.
It's gonna be more than that because they receive a 2%, so I
Mhm.
believe it's, 48,000.
That's what I was
So around 48,000 of city funds went into it.
But it's not taxpayer money, it comes
Yeah, it is.
through, well, it's not Roslyn City, we don't tax for that money, it comes through the resort municipality, which where they collect
Right.
Mhm.
hotel tax, goes to the province, gets paid back to us, and is earmarked for tourism projects, right? And Tourism Roslyn, has the leading control of how, well, I wouldn't say control, but they make the recommendations of how tourism dollars are spent. And personally, I think Tourism Roslyn is in the best position to make decisions of how tourist money is spent. I don't think that's a municipal function as much as it is a tourist function.
Well, I think if you want to get into the whole reason that there is a resort municipality funding and how the funding comes to municipalities, we can do that, but I don't think that's the time right now. We, the city of Roslyn, are responsible for resort municipality funding. We have, in cooperation with all kinds of community groups, established a template of where that money should be used. So council of the day made the decision to put a portion of that money into the free bus.
Right. I think most people like the idea. I'm just wondering if you thought it was a success. You don't know yet, obviously. It's not-
No,
We haven't had a report.
I can,
Well, it would be how you determine a success, right?
Right, well, I
I
mean.
mean, it had lots of riders because it was free. Is that
Yeah.
successful?
That's
That's up to the
successful.
city.
Yeah, as long as it's, it was used, I think that's successful.
And a lot of the local businesses put money into it also, right? People
Right.
downtown, because they really wanted to get the traffic out from the ski hill to come in and
Yeah.
shop in the towns. And I think, I've talked to store people, the store owners,
I've
and
heard
they're
both
very
sides
happy with
people
it.
saying
Yeah,
one
So
way
have I.
or the other, but the majority, they seem to like the idea, so I was just curious as to.
So far, I think the feedback has been, overall been positive. I haven't heard anyone to say, what a waste of money, or that.
I think overall you're correct, but there are some businesses that believe it hurt their business. But anyway, that's,
Okay.
Yeah, if I can jump in just to say, from a perspective of public transportation, when you're providing a service and you're not taking an opportunity to bring in revenue to that service, I did have a difficulty with that, and certainly that was an issue that went around council. Why does it have to be free? Make it a loonie. And I honestly can't tell you what is right or wrong. We haven't seen the report yet. We'll see what numbers come back. We've seen some for the year. But, from my perspective, you start a service as free without taking the opportunity to bring in some revenue to cover the expense of that service. I think you start on shaky ground. It's my
but anyway, we're not gonna debate
Okay.
the free bus. It's budget.
but it was a good question.
A great question. You got any more, Laura?
Probably, but.
No, go ahead.
Finished off now.
We got time. That's why we're here.
Mhm.
I know.
It's been great, you guys have had so many
Email.
questions. It's really nice to have the interaction.
I like
Appreciate
to
it.
talk, I like to engage,
You're more than
We
welcome.
know you do.
I know.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to rant or rave or congratulate or?
Oh, there.
Nomination papers will be.
When are they available? October? There you go.
Anyway, so thank everybody for coming, I really appreciate it. Thanks staff for the presentation. They've been here a long day, long and hard through this whole process. It's gone on for a long time now, and thank you for your input. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. I recommend it to everybody.
I couldn't keep it away. I
Some
tried.
days I might have to come back and get a job before I
I
get
tried.
some. I know, before I get some.
You don't own her.
Oh, don't do that.
No, that's mine.
You can take another copy.
No, I,